we need to talk about the combat of Arknights Endfield. Beta 2 is going on right now as I make this video. I sadly didn't get into the beta, but I'm still very curious about the game and especially the combat. How does it work? In this video, we are going to try to figure that out. It looks simple enough, but we definitely know it's not. There's so much depth and customization to the battle system, it's kind of ridiculous. And it's kind of awesome. We'll try to cover as much as we can and yet keep this video short and sweet. But now let's dive in together and try to figure out how to make numbers big on Arknights Endfield. But first, let me hit you with some good news from this video's sponsor. Recently, I've actually found something that saves money every single time I top up. Let me show you a website I've been using called RushBuy.gg. Okay, here's the cool part. RushBuy.gg gives you instant discounts. You're literally paying less for the same in-game items. Top-ups are done without needing your username or password. You just need your user ID and the server you play on. It really is that simple, but if you ever have an issue, their dedicated customer service team is always there to help you with any concerns. Use my exclusive code ZZHero1220 to get an extra 15% off the top of your regular savings. Yep, you get all the normal benefits of the RushBuy.gg website, plus an extra 15% when you use my code ZZHero1220, but you better act quick because that code expires on December 20th. So if you want to top up cheaper, safer, and faster, check out RushBuy.gg. More gaming joy, less money spent every time. With all that being said, if this video helps you, make sure to hit that like, comment, and subscribe. Alright, let's get on to the video. We of course have to look at things from two perspectives, the player's perspective and the enemy's perspective. First, from your perspective, the player. Your squad will be made up of 4 operators. During combat, you will control one operator with the rest of the squad fighting alongside you automatically. The player's basic attack arsenal is combos, skills, and ultimates. SP is consumed when a player uses a skill. There are 3 main ways to restore SP. It regenerates slowly over time, perfect dodges, or the final hit of an operator's combo. Doing all this builds an ultimate. Combo, skill, ultimate. The most basic of basic explanation, but it's far from that simple. If you play the game using only that, you will be bored. Super bored. And pretty unsuccessful in boss fights. Speaking of which, from the enemy's perspective, every enemy has a stagger bar. When the player does skills or the last hit of a combo, the enemy's stagger bar will fill. Once it's full, the enemy is stunned for a small period of time, and takes increased damage during this window of opportunity. It needs to be said that while the enemy is fully staggered, the first basic attack from the player will be considered a finishing move that will deal massive damage and restore SP. That is the basic of basic for the combat flow, but there is so much more. Now I will go into detail about each aspect of battle. As I said, during battle you control one operator at a time, while the rest of the squad fights alongside you. You can control the skills and ultimates of your squad members, and you can freely switch between the played character at any time, using the switch button. Each of your squad mates' skills are mapped 1 through 4 depending on their position in the party. Pressing the button will trigger the skill, and holding the button will trigger their ultimate when it's available. Skills have no cooldowns and run solely on skill points, while ultimates do have a cooldown. One final thing to note about teammates is you can also use tacticals, which are items that can be crafted and then equipped to your squad mates for automatic use in combat. They're essentially support items like health restoration and SP restoration. Now I'll share some finer detail about each command that the player has available. Performing a combo attack by repeatedly pressing the attack button or holding down the attack button will trigger an attack sequence with the last basic attack in the string being called the Final Strike. Final Strikes deal additional damage after a charge up, and it can deal stagger as well as restore some SP. Battle skills are character-specific skills that use SP to trigger. They don't have a cooldown and can be cast at any time so long as there's SP available. Combo skills, on the other hand, use no skill points, but will enter a cooldown after being cast. Every operator has a combo skill that can be cast when a certain criteria is met. For example, when an enemy is stunned, hitting the downed enemy with a battle skill or combo skill will build up your ultimate energy. Once you've reached maximum energy, you can cast your ultimate by holding down the skill button. Sometimes enemies will enter a charging state. This means they intend to do something big. You'll know this is happening by the red circle that appears around them. So if you see this red circle, dealing damage to them while they're charging using a battle skill, combo skill, or ultimate will interrupt them, stopping their skill from completing and dealing stagger to them. Here's everybody's favorite topic, the dodge mechanic. Dodge is now allowed to be performed twice in quick succession before hitting a cooldown before the next dodge. There's a short window where dodging during an enemy attack executes a perfect dodge, which reduces stamina consumed and restores a small amount of SP. The window for the perfect dodge is a little tighter than in other games, but even if you don't manage to trigger a perfect dodge, dodging will still allow you to keep your combo chain alive, moving smoothly into the next attack. Some people may have an issue with this, but I feel like it makes the combat feel dynamic and super fluid. We have to keep in mind that Arknights is its own game. It's not trying to copy other games. Even if some mechanics may seem similar, we're getting a new and fresh product here. Hippogriff has really paid attention to certain details that the community is up in arms about. One of those details being more tactical gameplay. I think the dodge represents that in a decent way, as well as the addition of perhaps a block mechanic coming in the future. Not sure what else they plan, but they've promised that the boss fights and gameplay will be much more tactical and dynamic compared to other games that you might be used to. And finally, we're going to talk about what I'm most excited for, how the classes, elements, and status effects all interact. Operators are sorted into 6 different classes: Guard, Caster, Striker, Vanguard, Defender, and Supporter. Guards excel at making enemies vulnerable and applying physical status effects, while dealing excellent damage. Casters are skilled at applying art inflictions and arts reactions, while also dealing excellent damage. Strikers are good at exploiting physical or arts effects inflicted by other operators to unleash decisive damage. Vanguards are specialists at restoring SP to improve the team's uptime on skill casting. Defenders are highly durable tanks, skilled at defending and healing teammates while striking back at enemies. And lastly, supporters apply various control effects that weaken enemies and can buff and support their allies. To build effective teams, you must rely on the interplay between classes. Damage types are sorted into 5 different types: physical, heat, electric, cryo, and nature. And there are 5 different physical statuses: vulnerable, crush, breach, lift, and knockdown. The first time an enemy is hit with a skill with physical status application, it deals vulnerable instead. Vulnerable can stack up to 4 times, and it increases the damage taken by enemies. Crush makes the enemies vulnerable, but if they're already vulnerable, it consumes vulnerable stacks to deal massive damage instead. Breach also makes the enemies vulnerable, but if they're already vulnerable, it'll instead consume all vulnerability stacks and make the enemy take additional damage for a specific duration. Kind of like a dot. Lift makes the enemy vulnerable, but if they're already vulnerable, it instead deals additional vulnerability stacks, deals stagger, and lifts the enemies into the air. Lastly, knockdown deals vulnerability, but if the target is already vulnerable, it instead adds additional vulnerability stacks and knocks enemies down. With all that being said, let's talk about the other damage types. The other damage types have 3 different applications: inflictions, bursts, and reactions. Inflictions are single element specific statuses. Bursts are doubled up single element applications. And reactions are statuses triggered by multiple elemental statuses inflicted on the same enemy. The inflictions include heat infliction, electric infliction, cryo infliction, and nature infliction. Applying 2 art inflictions of the same element triggers an art burst, which deals arts damage of the matching type, and it adds 1 stack of art infliction, up to a total of 4 stacks. For example, heat infliction plus another heat infliction equals heat burst. Meanwhile, reactions occur when arts inflictions of multiple elements are applied to a single target. Reactions trigger with any 2 different inflictions, and the second infliction applied determines which of the reactions will be triggered. There are 4 different types of reactions: combustion, electrification, solidification, and corrosion. Combustion is triggered with any other elemental infliction plus heat. Electrification with any other infliction plus electric. Corrosion with any other infliction plus nature. And lastly, solidification with any other element plus cryo. Solidification also has a special interaction. When a solidified target gains a vulnerability or other physical status effect, it will trigger the Shatter effect, which consumes the solidification stack and deals massive damage to the enemy. Basically, you're going to apply an elemental infliction to an enemy. Like I said, heat plus another heat will trigger another reaction. Heat plus cryo will trigger a different reaction, etc, etc, etc. Alongside that, you'll have to consider each operator's strength when applying statuses. Just like elements, statuses mix and match in their own beneficial way. This is the fun part. There's so much to play with here, and so much to make team building exciting. There's multiple combinations of strengths and weaknesses, skills and operators to explore. I honestly hope that this video gave you a taste and an idea of what the combat of Endfield will look like when it finally releases. And if you're watching this video after the release of Endfield, hit me up in the comment section below and let me know what you've learned so far. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Okay, bye.